All right, Beyond the Gates fans, we are here to talk episode 37. And, well, I feel like this is a proper conclusion to the Naomi and Bill storyline where, remember a couple days ago I gave an episode of 4? This kind of makes up for it. I mean, sure, this wasn't the, daughter, father, ultimate battle in court that I wanted it to be, along with a lot of fans, by the way. But this is a reasonable compromise, if you will, a settlement, if you want to be upfront about it. But I gotta admit, I did like the way it played out. Okay, so now does this mean I'm changing the score from the other day? No, I stand by that 4. I was still disappointed, but I guess this conclusion is better than nothing, I suppose. But before going further, please take a moment to hit the thumbs up button to show you like this video and hit subscribe. Trying to get this back channel, back in the algorithm. On top of that, I want to make sure these videos get out there because, well, hey, I love the show and I want to keep reviewing it. I just need to get these views and comments going. Well, actually, the comments are great. We're getting 20 plus comments per video, which is great for, audience retention. And I appreciate those who, didn't freak out because I was nervous about my episode 36 review barely being like 17 minutes. I'm like, oh man, if I only have a short video, I wonder if people will like it. But no, you like the fact that I addressed that, well, the episode was straightforward. There was really nothing to, elaborate on in terms of theories. And I just did what I had to do. I gave a blunt review, but it was detailed. And there's kind of the same thing in this episode. That doesn't make it bad. I gave this one an 8 out of 10. So, let's talk about the hospital. We got Shanice, who is talking with Ashley about Dr. McBride's, aka Doug, and his incredible workload and the fact that, she's just worried for him facing an eventual burnout. And somebody actually said this online, and I agree. Doug is substituting one addiction from another, with another. At first it was gambling. And while being a workaholic is something I relate to, you also have to look at the fact that Doug isn't just gambling with money. He's gambling with people's lives, because imagine if he's in the middle of a surgery or whatever and he, just burns out. Like, what's going to happen in that situation? So he really needs to just take a rest. There's nothing wrong with that. And from there, Doug pops up on him and says, oh no, don't worry, I'm good. It's like, in the midst of him going from one patient to another, Derek comes in because I believe Kirkland, a name of another firefighter, got badly injured, and Derek is freaking out because it turns out he and Kirkland like swap positions, during an assignment where Derek was on crowd control and Kirkland was the one, to handle the fire on the inside. They got word of a person being in the fire, and then he goes back in there, and then there was like a sudden, outburst of flames, and it caused him to get injured. So Derek is feeling, survivor's guilt, because Kirkland's daughter just turned 5, and like, if he dies, how can he tell her? And Ashley, pulls him to the side and, comforts him. And Doug is actually the one who works on him in the operating room. And as the episode goes on, we're given little updates here and there about him being, still in the operating table. And it's not like he can, give specific details to, Derek. So Ashley winds up, taking Derek, to get a drink or something to get his mind off things. And before she leaves, Shanice has to stay behind and work a double because, hey, with Dr. McBride doing his thing, somebody has to be here, to keep up shop. And like, look, don't worry, Ashley, I got this. You take your boy out to get some drinks. Now, that's another thing I liked about this episode. Shanice wasn't her usual nosy self. She was, walking on eggshells. Like, look, I'm not trying to be intrusive and whatnot, but I just want to make sure you're good because I've seen burnout before. And like, I don't want you to ruin your magic hands. Like, take a break. Everything is cool. He's like, there's always going to be a patient to save. Let another doctor handle it. But Doug is like, no, I got this. Now, switching gears, we go to Uptown. Naomi's there. And Jacob sends, just a thinking of you text. And then she's actually there to meet with the 3 women. Like, I'm thinking, oh man, this is going to be something. I bet they're pissed off. But no, they were grateful that Naomi, linked them up with a new attorney who's very capable and who's doing the case for free as well. Pretty much pro bono. Like, I won't charge you unless we win. But the thing is, they want Naomi to do it. But here's the thing. It's like, hey, we don't have to go to court. It's like the settlement. We want to take it. But as you pointed out, there are some holes in it. And yes, your friend is very capable, but we would like, to have you do it because you were able to see all the loopholes and figure out a fair deal. Now, essentially, the money, getting our jobs back is great. And Mike got fired, but there's always going to be another Mike out there somewhere. But what we really want to do is not get a seat at the table, but to flip the table over completely by making it where we have, say in some of the hiring processes in order to make sure no other future female employees had to deal with the same kind of harassment that they did. And from there, Naomi says, you know what? I'll kind of guide things in that direction. Like, I won't be your legal counsel, but I'll see what I can do. Consider this, a parting gift. So things do work out on that end. And Ashley and Derek wind up showing up to Uptown as well. And, Naomi can't tell them a lot of details, but, hey, still working on the case. So they go over and sit to the side. And Ashley, being concerned as a, friend would be, Derek's like, Naomi, she's a fighter, so she'll be fine. Bill actually shows up. I was shocked to see that. And they sit, and Bill doesn't want, look, the settlement is on the table. I'm not giving these women another dime. But then Naomi mentions how it's not really about money. It's about these women having, say about the policies in terms of the hiring process and whatnot. And Bill doesn't want to change a thing, but Naomi brings up the fact that, look, even though I'm not the one working the case anymore, if you don't want to do the settlement, fine, go to court. But just so you know, my friend, she just won a very similar sexual harassment case related to Hollywood. Now, her winning that case, and then if she's able to, slam you in court, that's 2 for 2. That would really make a huge name for herself. So you can either look at it from that perspective or, hey, fight a losing battle, whatever one you want to choose. The choice is yours. We could do this the easy way or the hard way. But no, Bill listens to reason and agrees. So he says, I'll draft up the paperwork and send it to him. And, well, things worked out. I can't lie. Okay, I'm satisfied. All right. Okay. Still wanted that big court case showdown. But if this is the best we get, this is the best we get. I'm not going to complain. So, well played, writers. Well played. Naomi and Bill's relationship over time will get better. It will just take time because, even in episode 36, when she was talking with Jacob about it, it's hard to imagine a relationship with my dad. And then the whole Haley thing, how is that going to be handled in the future? So who knows? Now from there, everything else. Okay, well, let's just, let's talk about the Vanessa stuff. That way the rest of the episode can focus on Samantha and Terrell. So at the hospital, Vanessa shows up just as Ashley and Derek were leaving. And Shanice, kind of has a, woman-to-woman chat with Vanessa about, the good doctor being extremely busy. Like, is there something going on at home? It's like, he's just been extremely overbooked and I'm worried that, he might, crash out at some point. And then there's this white doctor in the background. He's kind of eavesdropping on what's going on. And then he goes to chat with Doug, who's in between patients at the time. And what's crazy is that Doug, earlier in the episode, asked Shanice to hey, can you give me another patient? That way I can, wait, I think, yeah. Because he wanted to do more tomorrow. So it's like, good grief. So his phone keeps going off and he almost crashes out at one point. I don't know if that's, Randy blowing up his phone or if it's more patients or something. But either way, the good doc tells him about how, hey, I just won $5,000 off, a sports bet. And tonight I'm doing double or nothing. You want to get in on it? And he's like, no. And because, hey, on the one hand, I'm proud of Doug. No, like he told Randy, I'm going cold turkey. No horse racing, no online betting, no more casino. I'm just going to work, make this money, pay back Joey, and go about my business. But he recommends well, man, come on, you need a hobby or something, or hey, just spend time with your wife. And then after he walks off, we see Doug thinking about all the times that he has skipped out on special one-on-one dinners because he's been quote unquote busy. So I guess the guilt's kind of getting to him. Now, eventually he comes out of the back and he's talking with Vanessa about, the fact that he can't make dinner because he has a patient, and she gets upset and he pulls her over to the side so they can talk, and Vanessa thinks there's an affair. And I think that's rich because of the fact that we know all the partners she's had, because the way she was talking to Nicole about how, Doug and I really aren't in love anymore, but, we have an understanding / arrangement. So I thought it was understood that, oh, well, Doug knows that she is messing around with other dudes. It's just that they'll stay married just to stay married, because she mentions how the twins are at school, but they'll come back eventually. And what are they going to come back to? So I'm just thinking, like, it's really rich that, you got Diego, what was his name? Joey, not Joey. I forgot the guy's name. There was a guy that worked in her office that, she was role playing with until Danny showed up and interrupted at Uptown. And then you have, Joey, she wants to drop the draws for Joey at some point. So for her to go, it's an affair, isn't it? Really? Really? But no, and it's like, Doug, it seemed like he was going to admit to his gambling addiction, but Vanessa barely let him get a word in. But then Shanice comes over and says, hey, I hate to interrupt, but your next patient is ready. So he pretty much reassures her, like, look, it's not an affair. There's no other woman or anything like that. It's my passion to work, and that's all there is. Okay, I'll see you later. So then, he goes back to help the patient. Now, also, on a positive note, later in the episode, Ashley gets a text that Kirkland is stabilized, so he's going to be fine. So, Derek can take that weight off his shoulders. Now, in terms of Samantha, good grief. This girl is thinking about quitting school to become a full-time model. And I was like, wait, what? Rightfully, her cousin and aunt freaked out. But she admits that, I'm just joking. I just skipped the last period because it was like some assembly. That's what it was. Don't worry about it. And later on, we find out that the assembly was something the principal called. And it was about, online bullying and how, people will get suspended and face charges if that ever, happens. And obviously, Terrell knows that his dad has something to do with it. Now, yeah, so, Samantha skipped out on that. But they pretty much school her in terms of, look, we know you had a great first time on the runway. You're a natural. Chelsea points it out. But the thing is, you can't just give up everything you worked for education-wise, because the fashion world is not, an easy place to deal with. And Samantha mentions how, look, I get it. Terrell and I, we had a rough, life before we got adopted. So based on her dialogue here, so she's 16. Terrell has it stated one more year in school. So I guess we're to assume he could be 17, maybe, or the same age. So yeah, he's either 16 or 17 right now. And initially, I thought that, Smitty and Martin adopted them when they were kids, but maybe they were preteens or something. I don't know. That's kind of the vibe I'm getting. I don't know. But she does mention how, they had it rough, and she always knew she always had to have Terrell's back and, keep eye on him and things like that, because, it wasn't easy for them. So I know how to maneuver stuff. And I don't doubt that, but in terms of the modeling world, the entertainment industry, Samantha is all bright-eyed and bushy-tailed, thinking it's all sunshines, rainbows, and, this, that, and a third. But it's not that great. I mean, I'm 33, and just imagine, when I was getting older and can understand, all that glitters isn't gold, and, watching movies and everything as a kid. But then you watch documentaries or interviews where people who worked on a film, it's like, oh, that person's life must be great. But then you find out oh man, there were drugs and all this stuff. And, their family made life hell because they were always expecting things. And, you thought that these people who worked on the show got along, but they hated each other's guts. And there was a whole lot of just crazy casting couches and whatnot. So Samantha, while you might be able to navigate, yeah, that grit is good, but it might not be able to. Long story short, she might get into some stuff that she's not prepared for. And not to mention, she's only 16. So thankfully, Kat comes up with a great plan where it's like, you know what, let's come up with an idea that not even my brother can deny. So basically, you're only 16, keep doing school, but we'll kind of like give you a low key like internship, if you will, where we'll slowly inch you into the modeling world. But the thing is, you could be the focus of our like, teen line where because we just started our own, fashion line and whatnot. So, well, you work behind the scenes with the online stuff and whatnot. And, by the end of their scene, she's actually excited because Chelsea lets her, give her thoughts on some new design she's been working on. And yes, slowly over time, maybe we can get you in a couple of photo ops of some of our, designs and whatnot. And then it's baby steps. So I like this because the thing was, Samantha, and I'm not trying to kill a dream now because that's great that you have someone at such a young age who found something that they're passionate about. It's just that, hey, you can't make it to the finish line. You can't make it to the cover of a magazine without, working your way up. So I like that they're easing her into this, Let's work behind the scenes, then you get in front of the camera, that kind of thing. So I just love that things are working out in that way. And like Kat said, this is something not even my brother can deny. It's like, look, it's reasonable. You're dipping your toe in the water, which is what Smitty said. Dip her toe in the water because she's not going to go to, Fashion Week next week and, go from there. Now, in terms of the rest of the episode, it's really about Terrell. And Terrell comes home and knows the assembly was Martin's doing. And Martin tries to like mention how, look, I can't do anything because you don't think I know what it's like to deal with scrutiny and being an outcast. Like I was known as the gay Dupree, the guys, made fun of me. The girls wouldn't interact with me because they knew I wasn't interested. So all the times we'd go to I'd go to like student hangouts and, poetry readings and things like that. I was always like off to the side, but I never let it, I had to sit through it and I didn't want you to deal with the same kind of stuff. And Terrell kind of flipped it on him. It's like, okay, you went through that by yourself and you made it through. So why don't you let me do the same thing? But again, like Martin, I can understand it because it's like, well, I want to help you in the way I couldn't receive help because my parents didn't have that kind of pull. And not to mention being the gay Dupree, it's not like there was anything specific that could be, long story short, like obviously being gay during Martin's time growing up is different than it is now in 2025. But in any case, Terrell, storms out and, Smitty tries to reel Martin in about, it's just the same discussion as before, letting Terrell fight his own battles, but they come to a good compromise of the option of let's just send him to a private school. You should have never took him out of there in the first place. But yeah, send him to a private school. And then Smitty's like, hey, this thing though, we'll lay out the options for him and whatever he chooses, we'll support him. Good job. So he's over at the diner and he meets with Jessica comes up to him. And it turns out Jessica, because I think I kept saying Ashley by mistake, my bad. I think in previous episode reviews, I would say Ashley because I didn't really catch her name, but Jessica is the name of the girl, the popular girl at school that was the girlfriend or now ex-girlfriend to the guy that punched Terrell. And it turns out, she admires Terrell a lot. The way he holds his head high despite all the scrutiny at school. And, everybody online is insecure about stuff. But, based on your post online, it's like everything is going well for you. But he mentions like, yeah, it's not always what it appears to be. I deal with a lot of stuff. Yeah, I notice you in class sometimes, like you're really focused and everything. Yeah, I'm just, a lot of things to do. Basically, it's almost like she sees a man with a lot of potential or, a young man, because it's almost like you could be the next Zuckerberg or something like that because you have potential. And I'm like, oh, okay, I see what it is. Now, based on her kind of vote of confidence, it reassures Terrell that, hey, the method of me handling things myself, turns out it could be pretty good. So she does apologize. I told my friends about that stupid picture because, well, I told my friends not to share that picture, but they did it anyway. He's like, I don't worry about it. Everybody did. So things are working out in his favor. So when he gets back home, he tells his parents that, you know what? No, I'm not going to. Duprees don't run right. So I'm going to stay at the school. We all know it's because of Jessica, right? We all know. So I hope, this young lady doesn't have ill intentions or her ex tries to get revenge, but then again, that probably won't happen because, his daddy is a senator. So mess around with Terrell if you want to. But I hope things work out in his favor, even if Jessica isn't like his girlfriend in the future. But for now, hey, keep your head up, Terrell. Good stuff. And that is pretty much the episode. So with that being said, thanks so much for tuning in. Like and subscribe, and I'll catch you all in the next one.